Hey, I'm Moose. I'm starting this YouTube channel here. It's Texas Fishing with Moose. My first time doing this, never really done videos, don't really know what the hell I'm doing, so just bear with me and hopefully I'll get better at this shit. So what I'm going to do today, instead of just taking you out and going fishing, I'm going to kind of introduce you kind of me and what I'm all about and some of the shit that I use and some of the shit that I catch shit on, some of the shit that I don't. You know, and hopefully maybe you can get some pointers out of some of it and find some stuff that you like. You know, I'm basically doing this so maybe people can, learn how to fish because there's people out there that don't know how and want to learn. And, they try to look at some of these people on YouTube and they're kind of hard to understand and, you know, and they kind of try to push it that you got to do it their way. And the thing is in my opinion, it's not about doing it somebody's way. It's about finding your own technique by learning and watching other people and picking your own stuff. You got to find your own lures that you like. My personal opinion, the cheaper the better, because the more expensive ones, you're going to lose them anyways, and you're just wasting your money. I have found some of the cheaper ones. They got better colors. They got better products. They last longer, and they're just, if you lose them, it's not a big damn deal. So what I'm going to start with is my line of choice. I've got my preference for catfish. It's 25-pound test, and it's pretty good shit. It's nice and green, bright, so you can see it at night. I've caught a few catfish on it, and I've caught a 24-inch cat out at Weatherford Lake, that's my lake of choice. It pulled it in pretty good, and it held real well. I got a hold of a big old log, and I thought it was a big old fish, and I was trying to pull the fucker in, and it fought, or so I thought, and I don't know, I got it into it, I was like, oh fuck, it's a damn log. Well, shit. It didn't break, didn't snap, that's some good shit. Big ass log, good shit. Then, my other one is, I have the Camo Mr. Crappie. It's good stuff, it's an 8-pound test. It's great stuff. You can pull in some big fish. It's nice and thin and lightweight, and it casts out real well. This one I just got. I don't really know anything about it. It's 12-pound test. It's that green. It's supposed to be to where the fish don't see it. We'll see if the shit really works eventually. Now, my favorite is the neon yellow Mr. Crappie 8-pound test. This is the one I've caught most of my fish on. I've caught some big ones. I mean, some big massive cats. I've caught some massive bass. And some pretty good sized crappie with it. I've never had a problem with it. I've never had it snap. You just don't try to force the fish in. And that was some of my problems in the beginning of trying to learn to fish, is I was trying to force it in and just kind of crank the fucker in. And it just wasn't working, and it was just snapping my line every time. Plus, I was trying to use the cheap ass lines that come on the fishing poles, and they ain't worth fuck. That's just honest truth. We'll move right on to something else. My preference of fish is crappie. I like the bass fish. I like stripers. They're all great. And catfish is all right. It's just not my thing. I'll go with catfish every once in a while, just for shits and giggles. And my buddy likes to do it, so I'll go with him every once in a while just to get his Oompa Loompa ass the hell up off me. But I got this for Hanukkah. It's a thing of weights from Bass Pro. It's got some pretty good weights in it. It's got some little ones. It's got some big ones. They're great for crappie. They're good for, pretty much any kind of small panfish, but I use them mainly for crappie. And I found this. Eventually I'm going to try to use it. It's supposed to be glow in the dark, and it's garlic scented. Put it on your lure. It's supposed to attract the fish. Whatever the fuck, we'll find out. I've been trout fishing. This is the first year I've ever done trout. I got some trout nuggets, whatever the fuck they are, look like little orange nut sacks. But they stink, they smell like ass, they don't fucking, I ain't got nothing to work. These right here, I've caught bass with them, but they're supposed to be for crappie. I ain't caught shit. Other than a damn bass, and I got it to catch crappie. I got these the other day. I saw these guys catching them back and forth, and I got them. and they stink just like everything else, but they work. They're made by Power Bait, and they're the crappie niblets or nuggets or nipples or whatever they are. And then I've got my own choice of bobbers. You know, most people like the plastic ones. Some people like just the different ones. Well, my preference is I like this one. It lays on its side. When you get one, it pops that rough fucker right on up. I like this one here. It's lightweight. It's the cork just like this one. But it's nice and bright. And it's not that big of a deal. And then I got one for Hanukkah. I'm going to, I've tried it once and it works pretty decent. I just hadn't tried it at night. It's made by Mr. Crappie. It's a new one. Apparently it's a new product, or maybe I just ain't never seen it yet. It's got these little glow-in-the-dark fuckers. You snap them, stick them off in the hole. Just make sure you can get it in the hole. And of course, you gotta have a flashlight, especially if you're blind as fuck like me. It lights up pretty well, and it helps me see the shit. And of course, I've got one on my hat, and that's the one I use predominantly all the time. And of course, you got laws here in Texas. You gotta have something to measure them. You get caught, they're gonna take your car, they're gonna take your pole, they'll take your damn wiener if they will. So best bet, they can take my car, they can take whatever, just don't touch my wiener. I got different kinds of hooks that I try to use. Like for the small panfish, I got these little bitty hooks. You can put stuff on them. They're great for little worms. They're great for minnows. But they're great for perch, and I use them for crappie because the crappie like the little bitty ones. We'll just sit that on over there, shit. And then these are some that I got for some Senkos, to do some certain stuff with them. We'll get to that. It's got that nice little bend right there to snag it. It works pretty well. And it's got that nice little curve. It's not real big, and it's got a slight little turn to it to where it kind of snatches them up. Of course, then you got all your different kinds of bass ones. But I got another one for the Senkos, and some of them wiggly ass worms. If I can get some bitch out of there. I hadn't tried that one yet. It's got a slight little bend. It's got that right there. It's nice. It looks like it's built very well. And then of course you got your eagle claw. These are your bait hooks. And I'm sure you can see it through there. It's pretty good for holding baits. You can use it for stink bait. You can use it for worm. Whatever the hell you want to put on there, I suppose. And these are some of my favorite bass hooks from Arky. They're a good hook. They got different size weights and stuff on them. They're fairly inexpensive, and they're very durable. I've caught some logs and they hadn't even bent them. It's got the weight on it. It's got that nice little curve where you can keep the worms nice and straight, or whatever you want to put on it. And then I've got some other kind that I use. I've got one right here. It's very well built, very nice. It's nice and sharp. It works well, and this is what I use for some of the smaller ones. I can hook myself, shit. Here's a bigger one. I use these for the bigger worms and lizards and all them. And it's the same as the other one. It works real well. It's made by the H2O. You get it from Academy. And they're pretty good. They're pretty inexpensive. And I've compared these to some of the more expensive ones, and they work just as well. And then of course I've got some of the ones that I really don't remember where I got them. I've just had them for a long time. And they're all just more of the straighter ones. They're alright. I don't really have much of a use for them and don't really care for them, but I'll use them every now and again. Everybody's running around piercing shit, and I thought about piercing my wiener and call it a hook Albert. Hook your wiener and shit, and you can put it through your nipple if you want to. If you want me to, I'll stick it in there. I don't give a shit. You cry, I'll just walk off and leave you laughing. I've got some crankbaits of choice. These are just some of my favorites here. A lot of them are from Arky, and some of them are from Cream. They're really good. They got some really good colors, and you know, you got your jitterbug here, or Junebug, whatever the fuck it is. But probably this red one right here is one of my favorites. And then this green one right here, it's really good as well. And then you got the lipless crankbaits, and the poppers ain't really caught nothing with them. I just get out there and fiddle fart around with them when I'm bored. And these are my extras, but they're these little squid looking things, and I'll show you more when I get to them. But I've learned to use these here recently, and they're great for jigging. They're great for, you know, a slow casting reel. They're pretty good, and they're from Bass Pro also. These are something that, you know, I'd gotten for Hanukkah. It's supposed to be a trout lure. Well, I ain't never caught a fucking trout with it, but I've caught a couple crappie with it, and that's what works fine for just me. It's these here. Don't really know. I guess they're from, you know, Bass Pro. Not real sure. But they work pretty well. Of course, now back to that. Okay, now I'm going to go to my lures. We'll start with this one right here. This is the ones I've been using a lot here lately, because this is what the crappie have been hitting on. Now, I've caught some bass with them too, so don't get it wrong. I've caught a couple perch and blah, blah, blah. You know, to go towards it, here's my jig heads. You know, I've got quite a few different kind of jig heads, but I have one specific one that I use most of the time. It's fairly inexpensive, it's very durable, and it's got a nice, strong hook on it. You know, it's smaller, it's a 1/16 ounce, and that's what I use predominantly for the crappie because it catches them. But, you know, the bass like them too. But it's got this bullet-shaped head, and it goes through weeds, it goes through brush and everything pretty well. I mean, don't let these companies out there tell you, oh, well, my product's going to keep you from getting snagged. That's bullshit. You're going to get snagged anyways. You know, a lot of that shit's just gimmicks. They want you to buy their shit and think they're the best and brag about them and blah, blah, blah. Well, yank, yank. You know, that's what I think about the shit. I found these are little crappie lures. I've caught some bass on them. I've caught some crappie with them. They're pretty good. They're just, I don't know, it's not really something I really cared for. You know, I just figured, what the hell, I'll try it. Because I'll pretty much try anything. Some of more of my preferences is, this one here is by Bobby Garland. Bobby Garland's probably one of my favorite lures. It's got that little nice slick tail. It's got really good action on it. And it's like I said, I got that bullet head on there. You know, these are a new one, and they're pretty good. They're made by Boner, or I don't remember what it's called, but it's got a nice little head on there I found at the crappie house and bought it, and it was doing real good. And here's one of my other favorites. It's Mr. Crappie. It's got that little ball on the end. Gives the crappie a little bit of attention. It's a nice color. It's got one of them jig heads on it too. And this one, I'm not real sure. It's like Angler or some shit, but I got it from the crappie house. It's pretty good. It's got a nice little action, but the crappie like the small ones. And that's one of the things that I can't stress enough is a lot of these bass and a lot of these crappie, they like the small lures. You know, they say the bigger the fish, you know, the bigger the lure, the bigger the fish. I'm going to tell you right now, horse shit. I've caught some big ass damn fish with some small lures. You know, this right here, it's a really good color. It's that, well, shit, electric chicken. Some of them have a different name for it, and some of them are a little bit different colors, but it works real well, especially in certain color waters. Let's see. I've got a trout worm. Hadn't tried it yet, but I'm kind of curious about it. They say you can use it for crappie. I'll probably have better luck with the crappie than I will the trout. You know, this is one I got from the crappie house too. They're fairly good, and they got nice little action. It gives it this tadpole looking thing. You know, I've got all different kind of stuff. I got some that glow in the dark. They're real good. The glow in the dark seem to attract them pretty well. They work during the day and they work really well at night. And my buddy bought this one. My buddy bought this, and it's got this little flute looking thing. It's got really excellent action. The fish just go freaking bonkers over it. And it's made by Bobby Garland. You got some also made by Mr. Crappie, which here's one from Mr. Crappie. And it works just as good, you know, but this one's a tuxedo. This is the first one he bought.